Levels is good. Levels is good.
Levels are good.
What's up, dude?
Not much. What's up with you?
Just chilling.
Just chilling. It's a bit cooler than last episode.
It's nice. I was thinking that when these driverless cars finally get around, like the Google cars in LA and everything, it's going to be dope because by then Australia should have fucking legalised weed by then. And I'm just going to sit in my driverless car getting chauffeured around, just fucking hotboxing that motherfucker. Fuck, the future's looking bright, everyone. So it's a good day. Welcome to the Conez and Doe Show.
Get blazed. Do you ever wonder that we alienate listeners who might be against marijuana?
Well, how can you really be against it? I know if you don't smoke it or you don't do it yourself, but there's no reason to be against it.
Maybe that kid developed psychosis from using it.
They didn't develop it from using marijuana.
It's probably all the ice that you left around as a parent and shit, yeah. No, that's true. I don't think you can blame weed for that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to alienate anybody because we're a broad church here at the Conez and Doe Show.
Yeah, if it's not for you, it's not for you, but I'm going to be sitting in my driverless car, hotboxing the fuck out of it. And
I still reckon they won't let you do it. They're still going to find out some rule.
It's your private property, and as long as the car is not... If the cameras on the car and shit aren't getting impeded by smoke, if it doesn't need internal cam or some shit to make sure everyone's alright, then fuck it.
Well,
and if it's legal by then, it's going to be pretty hard to argue. It's like, I'm like keeping an eye on the fucking heads-up display and shit, making sure it's still green and doesn't go like, yellow, and I have to actually manually put a handbrake on or something.
Can't you still imagine the cops calling you over and like, look, mate, I know it's legal, but you look like a fucking Cheech and Chong movie. Like, it's laughable. Grow up. Like that sort of thing, especially if you're masturbating to pornography while you're doing it.
Well, do you want me to hotbox the train with all these fucking random people on there? Fuck you, man. Fuck you.
Hotboxing the train, fuck. I went on a party once where it was all in a
That's
train.
why you got to get into that oil shit. You got to eat this shit. It's less offensive to people. Like, it's fucking hardcore though. Like, I've been dabbling with it a bit over the last couple of years, like eating a bunch of cannabis oil and stuff. And I ended up yesterday just hitting a decent dose. I've been trying to like push it a bit each time to see if I can, get to a level of sort of like the feeling of having a bunch of weed cake when you're about 15 or 16, because I remember just your eyelids being so heavy you can't even open them anymore, even though you're trying to, and it not feeling like the same as like when you can't do it and you're falling asleep. It's like they were physically just so heavy. Like, just I haven't got that deep down the rabbit hole for a while, and then yesterday I probably hit about 280 milligram kind of edible, which is probably almost like eating 3 grams of weed sort of thing, like having a 50 at once. And then it was fucking awesome. It started giving me it was like almost like this time travel thing. It was like just in feeling though, and it started giving me this feeling like, oh shit, and I just for no reason just started thinking about this Outward Bound trip that I'd gone on when I was about 12, right?
Oh wow, old school.
And I'm like, oh cool, like thinking about like how it pushed all these limits in my head at the time. And we hiked for like 6 days and then did this whitewater rafting and fucked up shit where at 12 you're kind of like, oh shit, I'm carrying this 20 kilo backpack.
Yeah, I did some of that up in the Blue Mountains. It's pretty hectic, yeah.
Just wasn't thinking you're up for it, and then sort of surpassed your expectations, and it was all cool. And I was sort of in that mind state for a bit, and then I was looking at YouTube videos,
sure,
and I was so fucked or whatever that I ended up coming across like, oh, these 80s kids movies and shit. And then I legitimately watched a Care Bears movie on YouTube, so blazed, like probably in this hectic mind state, because I'd actually seen this movie before when I was about 4 years old, right? Sure. And it was like, it felt like it was actually like, oh, I was kind of 4 years old, because I was so fucked in the moment watching it, like mouth open and shit. And then like I didn't cry or anything, but like at times like I just felt like it was like my eyes were watery, like it was just like, oh, this is so like hectic, bringing this sort of innocent childhood memory back, and it was so like beautiful
So, like,
that I was like on the verge of tears and shit.
Sort of like I'm not in love, it's just a silly phase I'm going through.
It was like the gayest fucking thing that you could ever imagine, but it was so poignant and fucking meaningful at that time and shit. And then I was watching Jackass afterwards and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was great, but it was just like fucking my brain so much how I was like, oh, in this particular mind state when I'm so deep down the rabbit hole time traveling on cannabis oil,
Yeah.
I'm resonating more with Care Bears than Jackass. Like, what the fuck is going on? It was amazing. It was fucking amazing.
Quick question. What did the Outward Bound trip have to do with the movies?
It's just like it started, like, this oil
It put
thing
you in a
started
nostalgic-
taking me back, and then
Alright.
I got to about 12, and then I was checking out these movies, and then I saw this one, and I'm like, oh shit, I kind of remember this from being, like, a child, and I watched it with headphones on, and it was sort of like the fucking audio getting beamed directly into your head when you're, like, so fucking high, was almost like reliving these memories and shit. It was fucking insane.
Well,
But
I'm glad that
it was like the gayest thing in the fucking world, so our listeners, I apologise.
Well, I just want to say, I'm just glad that pushing your limits at that Outward Bound camp prepared you for that experience, however many years later it was. Because, you know, as they say in the new Point Break trailer, men who push the boundaries are going to find them eventually. So,
Well, that is fucking, you know, that's a good point you have, because I was thinking about that as well, and I didn't, in a way, I wasn't going to bring it up to you, especially on the fucking public podcast, but I was like, fuck that, because when I was growing up, you get into this weird juvenile form of apathy, where it's not even apathy, but you think it is, and it's like Eminem on that Slim Shady LP,
Yeah.
where it's like, I just don't give a fuck,
Yeah.
and you're so outwardly not giving a fuck
Yeah.
that obviously you give
giving a
so
fuck
much
so
of a
many
fuck.
times.
And I was like that, like, you know, fucking idolizing Steve-O and shit like that for
Totally.
so long. Like, I don't give a fuck about even
Like-
myself and
like
shit.
in Rage Against the Machine, when it's fuck you, don't do what you tell me, it's really fuck you, please take me seriously. You know? Sorry,
and
guys.
now I've reached that point where it's like, it's the true form of apathy. Like, I don't give a fuck what you fuckers think. I just watched the Care Bears movie yesterday. So,
Well,
Care Bears in Wonderland, motherfucker.
that's too much. If it was like Care Bears take Moscow or something, I could deal with it, but not that level of fantasy. But
If you got kids, I don't recall seeing anything racist or fucked up in there, so you can probably get away with watching that with them. But I'm not sure if you can have kids and have a dose of cannabis oil like I did and still raise them properly. But
I think the pink bear was a problematic emblem for sexuality and stuff as well. It's all fucked. But to not put too fine a point on it, but it's interesting you talked about like wanting to get as high as like a young kid or whatever, and sort of in a way you can reach certain
it was like fucking time travel.
okay, you can reach a certain level of enlightenment or transcendence through this. But what about the sort of Buddhist idea that true enlightenment, say nirvana, is through the extinguishing of desire, rather than chasing this dragon of desires that we're trying to achieve? You know, a certain
Yeah, it was
transcendence.
a beautiful nostalgia rather than the ego dissolving
Yeah.
beauty of a DMT trip or
Yeah.
the loss of self and all that shit. It was like a completely self-absorbed, like, never want to let your childhood go absorption of fucking ego, you know? It was massively ego-driven.
Well, I would
at the same time, it was such a good dopamine rush and kind of reliving this shit that I'd never even thought of for so long, you know?
I'd say it's one step away from the adult kindergartens are opening in Brooklyn now, where yuppies, professionals in their 30s and stuff, pay a certain amount to basically be treated like they're at kindergarten. Like, this is real.
And they're not even, like, mind-blowingly high, though, are they?
No. They're, just, they're neurotic New Yorkers and shit, but imagine making money off that. Like fucking graphic designers.
Maybe I'm not fucking grown up enough to be able to deal with watching Care Bears straight.
Yeah, but they're like graphic designers, 38, and they're like being paid to give, like they've got little bottles and fucking, what do they call them? Dummies, pacifiers and shit like that. So, but yours isn't.
Not nappies, though.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think so. That's more of a sex thing. This is
Or
not,
diapers.
This is not a sex thing unless it's in some weird, not obvious sex way, which it might be. But I mean, I guess it's in a similar vein. But the difference is you're doing it at home by yourself, apart from mentioning it on the podcast.
Yeah, I guess that's the same. I guess it kind of essentially is the same thing, so fuck me, but
No, that's cool. Well, that's what we strive for on the Cones and Dough Show, the 10th episode of the Cones and Dough Show. So, welcome. That was our little intro, I suppose.
hell yeah.
Yeah, it was good. This is Des comes from the Roman for 10, which I believe stands for decimal, meaning 10.
Dude, you're full of it tonight.
This is this is our 10th episode, but thank you all for listening, and I want to give a special personalised thanks to, because we don't really mention real names on the show, I'm trying to think of something that you'll get, but I can't think of any really thing that sums it up better than Mrs. N-Bomb, whose birthday it is today, so I'd like to say happy birthday. I think she's listened to pretty much all the shows.
Yeah, happy birthday, Linda.
Happy birthday, Linda. Fuck. Oh man, have you seen on Facebook, my girlfriend showed me there's some account, she thinks it's real.
Just for all the likes, eh?
Yeah, just for like, tell your friends. Mrs. M-Bomb, when you go to these lady luncheon things, try and get them to have a listen to it. I think they'll enjoy it. But, yeah, you mentioning Linda, my girlfriend showed me, she thinks it's real. I don't think it is. There's this account on Facebook from like Linda Clark, and it's like, oh, a stay-at-home mum of 3 in Florida, and she's like this normal-looking mum, about 45, who just constantly posts shit like calling out ISIS, like I'm gonna fuck you up ISIS, all this shit, like all this stuff, I'm gonna roll blunts and then fuck up ISIS, and all these photos like MS Paint cutting out her head and then putting it over like killing all this ISIS people and shit. And I don't know if it's real or not, because the funny bit is that it's like this stay-at-home mum doing it. But someone posted a picture the other day of some US Air Force guys or whatever, and you know how they paint stuff on the bombs sometimes?
Yeah. Like fucking angry face.
Yeah,
like,
angry
death
face
from
and shit.
above.
Exactly. One of them was posting like, oh, this is for Linda. Like putting her name on there. Like whether it's real or not, this shitty Facebook meme is actually going to start killing people in Syria. It's kind of hectic, huh?
Well, it's an extra birthday present for you, Linda.
It's not Linda's birthday, it's Mrs. M-Bomb's birthday.
Yeah,
okay. Alright, good, okay.
It's same deal, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to harp on that fucked up shit for too long, because I'm gonna cop fucking heaps from our fans for that first opener, but at least I can just fucking have cannabis oil and watch a Care Bears movie to fucking placate that part of my brain, and I don't actually have to go out and fuck some chick I don't like and have a kid that I don't want, so that I can relive my childhood, you know? So fuck you, Conez.
Oh, that was some crazy reasoning. I'll tell you what. No offense, but most of the way through, I thought, this is depressing me a bit. Like, this is a little bit sad. But when you brought it home to like this is the justification for like, as if the ultimate point of life, everyone is just to relive their childhood, and whether it's getting high or watching Care Bears or raising a child. Well, it's better than
less carbon footprint with this fucking YouTube and shit.
I don't know. Your computer's on a lot, dude. But yeah, I mean, I suppose it's better than having a kid you don't want, isn't it?
Fuck yeah.
There's a few of them around. A few kids that could have done with a few more Care Bear videos.
Sorry, little Jimmy, but you know it's true.
Yeah, you were pretty mean about the kids last week about them in the Boy Scouts and stuff. But was it with Scouts you did that Outward Bound type thing?
that was jokes on jokes, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was jokes on jokes.
Yeah, jokes on jokes.
It's like snacks on snacks.
Did you do it in the Scouts? Or was it like some school thing you did, or what? The Outward Bound?
The Outward Bound thing.
Yeah.
No, it was just I think my dad had done it as an adult and did some hardcore course or whatever, and was just like that'd be kind of cool for my brother and then I to do when we were about to turn into teenagers and stuff. So
yeah, I
look back on it fondly. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I did a similar thing. It was the 6-foot track. It's a big track through the Blue Mountains and stuff. But you think it would be sometimes it'd be cool to like test yourself and like do like the Kokoda track and shit. You know, it's a big one in Papua New Guinea and stuff. But then you're sort of like there is so much Care Bears to get through on fucking YouTube as well. And I think
I'm never going to live this shit down.
And I think they're making a Dino Riders movie, but we'll move on.
I just had a hectic thought about it as well. Was on that Outward Bound trip. You've seen Southland Tales, right?
Yes.
You know how they sort of go on all that religious stuff and dabble in lots of different things, and they at the start of the movie they're talking about how I think it's in the Bible, might be Jesus. Sorry if I'm mangling the real text, but didn't take a shit for 7 days, right? And like he's holy and all this stuff. Like didn't urinate or defecate for 7 nights and days or some shit, right? And then whether that's real or not, but in the movie, the deities of like the Antichrist is sort of the Rock character. Spoiler alert, and the real sort of new Jesus or whatever the fuck is Sean William Scott. And Sean William Scott's character, after they've mentioned this in Southland Tales already about the 7 days thing, is like, oh, I haven't taken a shit in 7 days, right? And then it's like sort of like, because I've watched it a few times, it's kind of this cool plant that lets you know that he's the real dude earlier in the movie.
The real Jesus.
on Outward Bound when I was a kid, I didn't take a shit for the first 6 days. Bow down before me, Conan.
It wasn't quite 7 though.
Yeah, fuck, I didn't quite make it.
This is what I mean about.
I should have held it.
This is what
It came out like motherfucking peanut butter. Jesus. But I don't know what that means. It was probably because I was working so hard for the first time in my life, like hiking and doing this shit every fucking day. Yeah. You're actually like dissolving all your food and there is no waste. It's like, I need all of this.
Just dehydrated and stuff, yeah.
And then just fucking spray a bit of Jif or...
How long was the whole thing? How long was the whole thing? Like a week long or something?
Maybe 12 days or something like that. Well, it was in between 7 and 12. I can't remember. Yeah,
that's hardcore.
Yeah, because it was part hiking and part... it was pack and paddle or some shit like that. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. Some kid got sent home for fucking with people during the night.
So it's like fudge packing and then paddling their butts sort of thing.
Yeah. Some other kids were trolling about trying to play Soggy Sayo, or maybe they weren't trolling, but I was 12, so I wasn't really up to that yet. Not that I ever was, but fuck. That's what you get with these housing commission motherfuckers that get forced to go on Outward Bound, you know? Like, you can go to juvie, or you can go on this fucking, team building exercise where you can learn to play with others and not stab them and shit.
Yeah, it probably helps. All they need is a good father figure, I think. I hope so. Yeah,
it was good. It was fucking good times.
Yeah. That was a long time ago now, though.
Might have to join the army.
You might have to join the army, indeed. I don't think the bad guys in Executive Decision were called Crimson Jihad. I had a look into it. I couldn't find about it. But the only references I could find were from, like, academic papers about, like, Orientalist attitudes towards it. Like, Arabs in film and shit.
I'm going to watch it again now.
Yeah. I do want to make them a bigger universe and put them in my Jerusalem Syndrome movie, which I've started working on. I'd like to have Crimson Jihad in there. Hey, how hard do you reckon it is to fake shit on Wikipedia?
Now or 15 years ago?
Back in the day, it was more just a couple of ones when it first came out. A couple that were done.
Define fake.
People I know. Well, they stayed up there for quite a while. One of them was at what is it? Delta Goodrum. There's like, it was just inserted sneakily. Like, there is speculation that she may have been faking some of the symptoms of her cancer
and that was snuck onto her wiki page.
Yeah,
did it stay for a while?
By some people we know. Yeah, it stayed there for a while and shit like that. The other good one I remember staying up there for ages was Shannon Knoll.
I remember that one.
It's like, Shannon Knoll is well known as a local amphetamine dealer in Condobolin. Yeah. Staying up there for so fucking long. I think I heard it as a rumour from someone, but...
Yeah, I think that'd get shut down pretty quick with anyone real big these days, but... I don't know, you could probably still get away with it with Shannon Knoll these days.
I know, I go on there, I try and deny the Holocaust and just remove the whole section, and they put it back up within like a minute, you know?
God damn, Conan, that's dark.
I wish that site would go dark. Fucking liars.
You know my neighbours are Jewish, right? God damn.
What do Jews have to do with this? I'm talking about the Holocaust. Oh yeah, I went to a store opening the other day, and I would mention the name of the store to give it a plug, but I don't really want to associate it with this show. Is that it was mainly young hipster people, right? It's in the inner city, trendy neighborhood and everything. It's sort of retail, does a bit of fashion and a few like little knickknacks and gifts, but very trendy. And my girlfriend was there, and her old teacher from school. He's pretty cool. I don't see him much or whatever, but he was talking about a couple of things that was quite funny. I'm just like, oh, what are you doing? And he's sort of this old jaded academic guy, like middle-aged, and just really out of place in the whole like hipster scene. And he's like, yeah, I've been doing like studying up heaps on Krav Maga, the Israeli self-defense thing, right? And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, there's no one else there that I could talk to and shit, so I started talking to him.
Was he putting moves on you? Was he choking you out?
No, but at first we were just talking about it, and he's like, yeah, okay, I didn't know this. Supposedly, he's like, yeah, it's meant to be like, rather than the more formalized stuff of the other arts, this is sort of like just how you do in bar fights and shit.
Like punch him in the throat and him in the balls.
Yeah, turning defense into offense, but also the main thing, like, rather than like, oh, I go into this full sort of fighting pose, it's more like this like defensive like bar pose like this, and then just doing all these grabs and chokes and shit, like multiple assailants. And I was sort of like trolling him back a little bit by being like, oh, it sort of sounds like it's the national character of the Israelis themselves, like real scrappy back against the wall and shit. And he's like, oh, talking about it. But then started he started showing me moves and sort of doing like not super hardcore, but like like pulling his arm back and stuff. And it was just so funny in the middle of the store with all these like 21-year-old hipster girls. Like, oh, one girl sort of like jolted back and shit when he like put his arm back like that, walking next to him. So that was pretty cool.
Fuck, he's got to keep a leash on that shit.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, no, it was.
I'm a registered weapon.
Yeah, it was an illuminating discussion. But he also said that in Japan, apparently, where he went not that long ago, you know how you walk into a convenience store here and you go to pretty much anyone all over the country and it'll be the same fucking shit, like oat chocolate milk and fucking sausage rolls. Over there with that vending machine stuff, because there's so many people and so many companies doing it, it's so non-standardized. So it's all like, oh, people get their like favorite brand vending machines that get like 10 cents off here and there, and it's like this massive thing about that. Like,
you can get beer and shit.
Yeah, like moving them around, changing them from week to week and everything, and making them this kind of like collectible kind of hobby type thing as well. That's pretty crazy for vending machines.
Oh, my dad sent me an article earlier in the week, and I can't exactly remember the ins and outs of it, but it was about women's comedy, and I think it was written by like a lady, and it went into like some ins and outs of like how they can be perceived funny by their friends and all this sort of stuff, right? And just by the end of it, I was like, I'm so sick of people saying that women aren't funny, because like my girlfriend, once a month, she's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
It's like clockwork. Oh my god, I was born to write that fucking joke. I wrote that shit down, but it's one of those ones where it's such a good fucking joke as well. I'm sorry, patting myself on the back here, but it's so good. It feels like someone else must have already written that shit. It must have already been said before, you know? But, like, at the same time, I came to that organically, whether it's my subconscious feeding me some Andrew Dice Clay shit or, you know, some random person that said it before, but...
Well, I just have to say...
I'm fucking owning that until I hear otherwise.
Yeah, you can own it. I mean, it's the same way that great musicians, they say that where do you get your ideas? They're just like, it's like I sit back and the ideas just flow from somewhere through me. So I think it's ultimately that joke.
It came to me, but I just hope it hasn't been done before.
No, but I mean, ultimately that joke is all about flow state, you know? Heavy flow state.
100%.
Sorry, lady.
I just got what you said. Oh, dude.
Motherfucker.
Fucking just hammering it home.
Is that true about the menstrual cycle syncing with the moon? I know it is apparently that girls...
I've heard it before, but honestly I haven't done as much YouTube research into the menstrual cycle as I have into the falling of Building 7 or some shit like that, you know? Like, I guess my what do you call them? Priorities are all fucking jacked up.
Yeah.
I should be looking into some more feminine shit, like Care Bears.
I know. Yeah, you're looking at... It's like a 9/11 every month. Yeah. But I suppose... We're not here to talk about this on the Conez and Doe show.
But, I had this cool idea as well regarding, like, capital punishment and lethal injection and shit like that, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, we're coming to the point now with Oculus Rift and VR and all this shit where it's going to get pretty fucking dope soon and hopefully indistinguishable from real world shit within like maybe 10 years or something, right? Maybe not, but it'd be cool. And then once that's around, you do that shit like out of The Assassin with Bridget Fonda and shit, how they like pretend like they're gonna lethal inject her and then wake her up and they're like, nah, you're fucking mine now, right? But instead of that, you sort of half Matrix it and you're like, tell them that you're gonna lethal inject them for their dirty crimes and shit, and then strap them down to a fucking board or whatever if you have to screw their bones into this fucking thing or whatever, and strap a VR goggle set onto their head. And then when they wake up from their sedation, because you don't give them actual gonna kill them chemies, they wake up, and then on the VR headset you actually put this hell and shit, like all this fire and all this fucked up shit, and try and make them live in hell where they can't move, but they can just see this hellish shit, and they're getting fed intravenously, still being alive, thinking they've actually transcended into the hell dimension for a while, and then you can bring them out of that after a while and, study the effects and see if you can rehabilitate someone after they've been to hell.
Yeah, you're like the cyber Dr. Mengele. What's fucked up about that, though, is that if the reading of history, okay, bear with me, I'm processing that. My reading of history has taught me one thing. It's that certain people can be pretty cavalier and even enjoy inflicting punishment on others. Like, the most extreme, like, I'm going to keep you alive, but fuck with you sort of tortures and shit. So it's sort of inevitable that thing's going to get done.
It's coming.
This eternity hell prison. And imagine if fucking, like...
And you could do heaven for people that are, like, terminal, but they're going to live for a long time, but they just can't move their body.
Yeah. Oh, imagine, like, fucking... There's people sick in hospital and, like, going into comas, and the Christian groups posing as doctors come in and sneak the goggles on them. So they sort of have... You know how sometimes people are like, I saw the light, then came back? It's like, oh, I saw hell, and you put these little hell and God mission, and then they come back and they're like, it's real, like that whole family. It's a good way to spread.
Fuck yeah. There's going to be a lot of VR propaganda going around in the coming years.
I guess what you have to ask yourself is whether you want to be in VR heaven or VR hell.
I reckon with POV VR porn, there's going to be porn stars with fucking tattoos of McDonald's and shit on them and stuff, so when you're looking around while you're like doing it, look, and on their thigh it's like, I'm loving it.
Totally. And then they're like, make $635 a week.
Like, shut up, bitch. We do not allow violence in this simulation.
Well, yeah, this is ultimately... these always, if I can say so, these all seem like things that we're rationalising up to justify a battle that we've already lost.
It seems like we're just trying to come to grips with the future, really.
Well, you already look at people, they're already enslaved by technology. What would we do without it?
Uh-huh.
What would we do without it?
Yeah, it gets freaky. The further you go, it's just fucked up and freaky, man. The fact that right now, even if we are living in the fucking malleable reality with physical objects that are 100% real, it doesn't change the fact that because of the way our brain is connected to our fucking eyes and all this shit, the stuff that we're seeing all exists within our own mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? So, like, even, like, that's where the Matrix shit comes in. It's just like, once it's indistinguishable, like, you're fucked.
Exactly, yeah.
It's an ever improvable theory, like religion or fucking infinity, so...
It's weird, I mean, yeah, there's certain... Okay, in a way, people's, like, I look at some social media and people are like, getting caught up in it and everything like that, and in a way it is sort of like, being facilitated through the technology, and I imagine... How fucked up would it be if everybody, like, in real life, having a political discussion, did it like a Facebook argument or whatever? Like, they'd just be like, just screaming in people's faces. Like, because, it's all caps all the time and shit. Like, shit. And other people.
And just keeps getting bigger with each like.
Can you imagine the argument that would ensue? So that's why, democracy doesn't work, I suppose. So what you're talking about is more this individualist cyber prison, possibly like heavenly and stuff.
Yeah, at the end of the day, though, to avoid having to kill a human, which is kind of immoral and shit, So we're avoiding the immorality of murder by ruining someone's mind while they're alive. I guess it wasn't well thought out. It was supposed to be just grating for you, so...
Yeah, well, it is quite, but we might as well...
And just like an exploration of what the fuck's coming, like, all that shit's fucking coming. Watch out.
Watch out. This is good advice. We do tackle it here.
You gotta think about it, fuck. Otherwise you're gonna wake up in a fucking VR thing doing a three-way with a couple of monkeys and shit, and you're gonna think it's real and that you were the reason that AIDS got created or something.
And you're gonna think...
And it's just your mates pranking you, they're pranking you on April Fools, you woke up with the headset on, cut.
And then the worst part of that is when you have to leave. Imagine if AIDS was caught from one of those in the future, but then went backwards in time to the 80s. Imagine how fucked that would be.
It wasn't from a guy fucking a monkey. It was from a monkey fucking a dude. Those things are fuck crazy, bro.
What?
They think it was from a guy fucking monkey. I mean, come on. It's like giving a banana to him. He's like, yeah, just show him a bit of leg.
Those monkeys are pretty good.
The monkey was taking the reins, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Unless they were sedating it, you know, conning it with jungle juice or something. But
yeah, well, you've seen the elegance with which they move throughout the woods and stuff, right? There's long arms and stuff. There's a certain sensuality about them, even if I'm not like a monkeyphile myself. Simiophile, I suppose, maybe. But I don't know. I'd be worried about who's like, yeah, give me the silverback.
And they'll rip your head off like a fucking praying mantis.
Yeah. Those fucking gorillas. Oh, there's a video of a gorilla fucking a gorilla at a zoo. I'll have to show you at some point. But yeah.
Is it brutal?
No, it's really funny, and it's like they're playing it. I'll speak about it now. It's like people filming through the kind of people filming like families, like whoa, and shit, like because they're sort of flirting a bit, the two gorillas, and then one jumps on the other one's back, sort of, and they move a little bit, and one does this mad like. Sort of forceful but still smooth, not at all violent move to just like flip the chick gorilla back over on her back, and straight away just start like moaning like yeah, like missionary styles, and the crowd goes wild and shit because they're sort of what's happening to them? They're like whoa. They love watching these gorillas fuck, and I think that's proof for evolution, if nothing else. You know, the fact that we like going to these places to watch these monkeys sort of still fuck. So that's the other end of our sort of, you know, we've got the AI on one end and we've got that old monkey impulse on the other end.
Yeah, so. We love putting ourselves above the animals, eh? Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Is a computer the highest of the animal?
It will be. It will be.
It'll be above humans on the food chain, you know?
It's going to be a fucking hyper animal.
It's going to be a hot mess, I think is what it's going to be.
I was watching a JRE the other week with Graham Hancock and I think Randall Carlson. I might be getting his surname wrong. Randall someone. And they're like these cool sort of new historians trying to go through and, you know, date civilization properly and take into account, you know, all the evidence that is available. Like some guy, Robert Schoch, apparently did a bunch of work on the erosion on the outer encasing of the Sphinx, and it's got all this sort of water erosion that correlates to like a heavy rain period, and there hasn't been this rain since like a certain time ago and all this shit. And it was really cool. It was about basically like human civilization being older than you think in the 12,000 sort of BC era, where the Ice Age ended, more being of a rebuilding of humanity rather than just the birth of civilization. Like with all these sunken cities they're finding these days and stuff, it sort of goes along with it pretty cool. I think I've seen some artifacts in Japan that are sunk, and I think there's one called Göbekli Tepe as well. And it had me thinking about like how all civilizations, how it's always Babylon and shit, and the world's always ending in your like biggest civilization on the earth at the time and shit. Or like even if it's just the biggest one that you're part of. And I think in some ways as well, we always feel like the world's ending because civilization has been destroyed before, like with those sort of flood events and shit that get retold in these disaster stories in religious texts and all this kind of shit. So I think because we probably have survived at least one of those as a civilized species, we have been consciously feeding that down through our generations, that shit is possible, and we try and hang on to it through those more artistic forms of shit, because they get passed down and the songs get passed down and the religion gets passed down. But if it's just a story, it might get forgotten, you know. You try and make it this important thing. So I think a lot of the art and all this end of the world shit goes along with that as well, that this shit has happened while we have been conscious humans trying to live civilized life. But, you know, I don't know where to go with it, but I just thought that was kind of goes along with all that, like, yeah, we're older than the Egyptologists have told us in high school and all that kind of shit, and it just it feels right. But I don't know, I'm not a fucking historian and shit, but I'd urge you to check out, you know, like Graham Hancock and fucking I forget who. There's a few guys.
I'd have to see more evidence, you know. I've seen those little things off Japan and stuff like that as well, but it is a long way outside the sort of consensus and stuff. And I guess civilizations collapsed, like even from Roman times, before we built up the current sort of industrial revolution. civilization as they know it collapsed. Like I showed Doe a picture just before he started of a aqueduct, a Roman one built in 19 AD.
Yeah, it was tight.
And there was sort of nothing really built along those lines again until like the 1800s and 1900s. And it went along with, from what I understand, an accompanying loss of sophistication in, say, art. Like there was a certain high classical period in terms of where you see like Michelangelo's David and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
No, that was later. That was Renaissance. But that sort of form, statues like that. And then they gradually deteriorated and everything. So that was sort of a collapse before and then we were all living these shitty, like, Monty Python Holy Grail kind of lives. Until it came back up. But, I mean, it'll go
because those
again.
motherfuckers burnt the Library of Alexandria down.
And it's actually
twice.
Fucked. Yeah. Those fucked.
Yeah.
And the way I think about our current civilization is even with all our problems, it's probably going to go down the toilet at some point. But it's sort of like what Marilyn Monroe said, like, at least when I die, I'll leave a beautiful corpse. You know, Kmart's and shit. So.
It's fucked up how the internet is so, like, open information for everyone.
Yeah.
But the Catholic Church still hangs on to their library where they don't let anyone see it.
Well, they've got all this crazy shit in there, no wonder. So.
Just put it on the internet, you fucking cunts. I'll just read your scrolls digitally.
But you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
It belongs in a museum.
Yeah, exactly. Like on Joe Rogan, they'd be like, ooh, the scrolls.
I'll fucking Indiana Jones you up until the point that I have to actually look at that fucking artifact. But
Yeah.
I'll hand it to you, you know?
Imagine if it had all this shit in it, like, we're smoking DMT, like, ah. It totally proved you right, but,
Fuck yeah.
yeah, I mean, I
All these
don't...
acacia bushes and shit.
Yeah. So the theory is that it's like acacia bush releases a compound similar to DMT when it's burnt.
A certain type of acacia bush is super high in DMT, yeah. So if you burnt it, you would trip fucking balls, and they reckon that's potentially the Moses story.
Yeah.
Standing next to this acacia bush and just being like, "Duh, my own morality's talking to me, and I think it's God." Or it could be fucking God and this uber fucking consciousness.
Well, that's like
it really could, you know.
It's like what you were talking about earlier when you were doing the period joke. I was like, fuck, where'd that come? And like classic,
The dopest joke ever.
Yeah. And like, you know, famous sort of art and stuff apart from that. But yeah, it is.
Well, now I'm up there with the Michelangelos and the Leonardos with a joke like that.
That flow state in the right mind is sort of like, even if I as like a sort of materialist and stuff, it is sort of a conduit to higher things, you know? That's where, well, man, the more I talk about your joke, the cheaper it seems. But I'm talking about like founding like civilizations and like Isaac Newton, like that kind of thing. Like, where does that come from, you know? Where does it come from?
Yeah, creativity does seem inherent.
Yeah,
inherent to the fucking system, inherent to mass consciousness and all these kind of things that you should try and think about if you get some free time on the weekend. It's pretty hard when you're inching along the freeway in those metal coffins.
Don't lie, you don't inch along any freeway. but
we showed them that the human spirit is still alive.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's just when you say think about this.
Sorry, it's your Point Break shit from earlier.
Sorry,
I had to reference the old one. You know?
The new one looks pretty bad.
Fuck the new one.
I know, right? It's like, who are these people? You know? Oh fuck. Well, yeah. When you ask people to think about it, you know, I've wondered this quite a lot. You were talking about the teenage mindset earlier, and you're like, well, not in these sort of words, but like, oh, fucking everyone, just like these conformist sheeple and stuff like that. But, you know, you grow up and you realise people have priorities, they've got different backgrounds and stuff like that. And I like to offer a certain amount of respect for the average person's intelligence in terms of, you know, that they do think about these things and with some regularity and with some deepness and insight. But it's just sort of hard to do anything about it, or they may lack the tools to articulate them.
You know how hard it is to think for like 5 days after you've been pinging so hard on the weekend, brother? Just pinging, and then fuck, someone had some gods, so I just did some lines, and then fuck, I don't know what the fuck that was. I think it was meth, bro. Fuck. So it's pretty hard to think about it when you're doing that shit, but
isn't that the best time to think about it?
Smoke the week out, and yeah, think about it. But if you don't have any fucking weed after that, you're gonna be running around like fucking Pac-Man on crack, like gang, 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 gang.
Yeah, trying to string together a narrative.
It's gonna be cool though.
Watching out for those fucking ghosts coming around the corner.
You got any drugs, bro?
Maybe Pac-Man was meant to
shit.
symbolise, because it came through that Reagan crack era. Maybe it symbolises a crack addict. Because it's such a theme.
It should have had monkeys chasing him, though. That was too obvious there to make it ghosts.
Yeah, but the ghost still sort of works.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, you're going to be a fucking ghost,
Yeah. Well, fuck, okay, so that's... Maybe the Donkey Kong game was related to AIDS and shit as well, too.
Just throwing barrels of AIDS down on poor Jumpman.
Yeah, exactly. Mario trying to get up to fuck it.
So I just threw in Jumpman for the retro gamers in there.
Jumpman. Hey, do you want to make some money?
Fuck yeah.
One of these betting...
But I can't do market siggy research or market research.
I wouldn't ask you to do anything compromising your Mormon...
Unless they're good for chop, eh?
Compromising your Mormon values. I believe Mormon values are choppos only, you know? Do you know you can get expelled from the Mormon University for drinking caffeine over there? It's pretty hardcore in Utah.
Fuck.
Yeah. But
You can't have a hot cup of Joe.
No, you can't have a hot cup of Joe unless that's sanctioned under marital law. Then you can do whatever
But
you want.
isn't that guy's name Joseph or whatever?
Yeah.
And you can't have a hot cup of Joe.
You can have a decaf Smith, I think. But I don't know. It's a bit crazy, huh? So Lord knows what they do if they bust you with some weed and stuff.
Lordy Lord.
Or some DMT. Imagine giving the Mormon guys some DMT. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah.
Back to making some money.
You gotta make baby steps.
Yeah. Back to making money, and not through Mormon Industries, but some betting site was offering today odds 250 to 1 to bet on that the new Star Wars movie will be the highest grossing film release of all time.
Yeah, I'd almost fucking put money on it.
What do you reckon?
Were they giving odds 2 to 1?
Yeah, 250 to 1.
Fuck, that seems almost a sure thing.
Does sort of. Like, chuck on 400, grab a grand. I don't know.
Chuck a grand, grab a couple. It's not as good as, like, I would, but that gut feeling I had for Holly Holm versus Rousey, I should have gone with it. That was fucking retarded. It was 12 to 1. A guy put fucking 20 G's on in Las Vegas. Like
on Rousey?
God damn, son. On Holly Holm, 12 to 1.
Yeah, sweet. Nice one. Yeah, I read a thing recently about a poker player, like a poker addict, just like, he was an academic, I think an English teacher, but also a poker player and addict, so he could write quite well about the gambling experience. And it's just, because you can recognise parts of like the sort of addictive behaviour, but it's sort of just around such a kind of alien world, like me handing over all this money for that. I don't know, it doesn't tempt me, but it's weird seeing the actual same little mechanisms, and he's like, there's nothing like he starts the article like, there's no other feeling like just having lost all your money and leaving casino at dawn, driving home to explain how your wife will do it. But he almost seems to relish the sort of...
I can understand it in a way.
Because it's the easy win that brings them back and shit. It's like such easy money when they win it, but it's just not my thing.
It's not even... I think I've seen the Louis Theroux documentary with this high roller. He goes around with a few high rollers and stuff in Vegas. And... it was epically fucked up, and it's almost like they're living on that adrenaline surge that comes just before you either do win or don't win.
Yeah.
It's like, you're like, oh, and it's like this hectic, like you're so fucking amped up, and you could win, and then it's almost like the payoff isn't even as good as the anticipation.
Yeah.
So, they just keep going back to get that feeling and shit. It's fucking hectic.
It's true. I entered a Powerball thing at work with a couple of people for shits and giggles the other day, because it was like fucking $70 million or whatever. I hadn't done it for ages, and I guess the best part of spending the $5 or whatever was for the 6 hours that day before they did the draw.
Dreaming about it.
No, it's not even dreaming about it. It's just considering in my head, like, oh yeah, like I've got that. Like I got it. Like
that could come true.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a chance I could get like $10 million for that and stuff like. And I guess that's the appeal, but I don't think I'll be doing it too much. It seems like
I get the odd one here and there, but it seems like a fucking exercise in futility.
Yeah, if it's a Michael Jackson pokey and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I read fucking last year, people in Fairfield Council, which I think it might be like the poorest council area in New South Wales, and I don't know how many people it is, maybe 100,000 people or something in the council. They spent $7.5 billion on gambling. Like, that's comparable to some African countries' kind of gross domestic product and stuff. In the poorest council in the state, $7.5 billion is a lot of money, you know?
Fuck.
But, you know, you take the chance. You take the chance on the punt.
So you could have fucking 200 poker machines in your local club, but I can't fucking grow a weed plant.
Yeah.
Suck my dick, Australia.
Totally. Do you know New South Wales has 10% of the world's poker machines? Yeah. How cool is that? In such a fucked up way.
If you have personal responsibility, I'll even chuck $20 in there occasionally because it's like, ha ha ha, but the morality behind it is like, if you're trying to tell people to do one thing and then on the other hand you're allowed to jack people over it with these fucked up rigged games that win most of the time, it's a pretty weird thing. It's fun, there's flashing lights and it suckers all these 80s kids in that like video games, I think it works on everyone, really.
I'm curious as to why it's such a massively... Because Australians are the biggest gamblers per capita in the world by a long shot. It's Australia, I think, then Singapore quite a bit further down, and then a whole lot of other people. There's something about Australians spend so much money on gambling. Just trying your luck in the lucky country, I suppose, but...
Oh, because I'm happy either way, cunt,
Still got a beer. At the end of the day, there'll be another beer,
Speaks fucking kilometres for Australia, bro.
Fucking ruse in the sunset, brother. Ruse in the sunset. Yeah, the Outback's a pretty scary place, though. All these Wolf Creek motherfuckers and stuff, I guess, huh?
Back in high school, probably in the later years, a lot of the guys were smoking cigarettes probably from early high school even, but it got a bit heavier in the later years, and then I'd bump into a bunch of dudes, like my Korean friends and stuff, in the toilets and stuff, and you'd notice them smoking in the dunnies and all this shit, and eventually...
C-block dunnies and shit.
Yeah. You know it.
Go on.
And eventually I found out from one of my better Korean friends that he was taking ciggy shits, right? So he'd be having a ciggy on the toilet and having a shit, right? So I started giving that a go every now and then when I was in either a public toilet or somewhere where I could pull it off or something, right? And I was like, this shit seems pretty cool and stuff, but I've always been way more into punching billies, right? And then at some point along the way, sort of like my joke today, I coined this thing called the bong assist, where it's like you punch a billy while you're taking a shit, and it just sort of seems to fucking fire it out at light speed, right?
Sure.
I don't know whether you can just achieve the same thing by breathing normally, and I'm just a dick. But I made that fucking shit up as well. The bong assist, you got to rip a billy while you're taking a shit, and
so it's a digestion tool ultimately, is it?
Yeah. So usually you even hold it for a bit, no, I don't want to go yet. I'm gonna pack a cone, and then you rush to the toilet. You're on the edge, and you punch it in. And then when you go to breathe out, it's just you breathe out smoke and you breathe out your asshole as well at the same time. It's fucking crazy.
Well,
it works most of the time, unless you got some dietary issues or some shit that, we probably can't go into right now because we're getting a bit long on the episode, but give it a go, I'd say.
I guess the obvious question is bong assist with the weight vest?
With the weight vest? I haven't done that yet, though, but thank you. That's fucking something for me to do tomorrow. Always looking for new things to try.
You better write that in your diary pretty quickly.
Hope I don't break the toilet.
Oh, that takes me back to school, yeah. Good times.
So, yeah.
It was kind of disgusting, but I'm glad people are aware of it. I just think it didn't need the word arsehole.
I'm sorry, guys. I should have kept it more medical so that people would take it seriously and give it a go.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. When was the last time you reckon you caught a bus?
A bus for real?
Yeah.
I really can't even think. It probably has been a couple of years. It may be in between, going to a cricket function thing that I went to.
But a legit public bus sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, but not really. Probably not for a couple of years even.
What do you reckon? It's pretty fucked up. Does it put you off catching them, do you reckon, because you'll walk up and won't be able to pay for your ticket in change, or what?
Nah, I'm just a privileged motherfucker that had a bike license and a car license, access to a car and my own motorbike, so
yeah.
I didn't really have to do it for the last couple of years very much. If it came down to it, I'm sure I could pleb it with all the rest of yous. But I walk, motherfucker. You know?
Do you?
Yeah.
Where to?
I haven't done that shit for a while either, but there was a few times where I'd be at like Lane Cove or the city or Camaret and shit like this, and then I'd be like, and I probably have a skateboard as well, but it's not like it's all downhill.
Yeah.
And I'd go home to Manly, so it'd be like, occasionally if I didn't have the skateboard, which was the city a few times when you'd be out drinking, it'd take like 3.5 hours to walk home from the city, but you just get in that fucking outward bound mindset, and I'd just be like, fucking yeah, and you just keep fucking walking, man. And some of the nights like would just get real whacked out because you'd be so drunk and whatever from the night, you know, that I find alcohol's my gateway drug. It's like I'm ready for fucking anything if you get a bit pissed.
Yeah.
And then I'm on the way home.
I've seen him everywhere. He's like, I'll fucking coward punch you.
And then like I would find myself getting almost home and being so tired from these epic marathon walks while you're pissed walking it off that I get to my hill, like it's like uphill right at the end, right? It's a little bit of a cunt. And I'd start doing that thing that we saw the other week that the Chinese people are doing now, doing this all fours walking and shit, and because it's on the hill it makes it a bit easier, you don't have to bend over all the way.
Yeah.
And I'd like run up the hills at the last bit but on all fours so that I wouldn't have to walk with my legs anymore and shit. Like, you're so fucking exhausted and fucking drunk and fucked. And
you've got in a bit of trouble on the hill drunk, haven't you?
Yeah, I think so.
A couple of times, yeah.
Oh yeah, a few times.
You don't know.
I think I've broken a bone and been kicked in the head, but I had a helmet on that time, so it was alright.
That's alright. That was definitely alright.
I probably deserve to be kicked in the head, but that's another story. So
yeah, that is another story.
I'm sure that'll come up sometime.
That's another story for another time.
I hope I don't have to plead the fifth again.
F-I-F.
And then I go to court and they're like, that fucking doesn't exist in Australia, you dumb motherfucker. Like, don't you know we're fucking suing cunts for libel and there's no free speech here and we're a nanny state and you can't fucking smoke weed and, you know, if you want to get drunk and punch some cunt in the head though.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, exactly. I saw a good defense once by some guy in Queensland, and like his judicial defense was just like, it's this crazy thing they call freeman on the land, where it's like, oh, I'm a settler, I don't bow down to any state power and shit. And you know, you probably read about it on the internet.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Watching it in a courtroom setting is so funny. Like, it's this belligerent sort of Queensland guy, but quite quick and quite funny, but like super rough and just like.
And he's actually pulling it off in court.
Not pulling it off because they keep trying to get him to shut up and stuff, but he just doesn't waver from it at all. He just has like, no, like, I don't accept your authority, da da da. But like, pretty good on the law. So like arguing with the judge and pissing off the judge quite badly. And I'll have to see if I can dig up the transcript because it's fucking funny. It's one of the funniest courtroom things I've seen in a while.
Far out. Well, you got anything else for me, you product of feminized classrooms?
That's underestimating my intelligence.
Hey, I didn't say I wasn't either. We had a couple of masculine teachers at our high school.
A couple of them were even men.
They'd hit you in the head with fucking textbooks and shit. I mean, they were some good role models. but most of the dude teachers at our school though, and I'm sorry if it's a hater, but they were real bitchy, you know. We had a couple of big dogs and shit, but one of them was nuts. Like, one of them threw my diary out a window and it landed on a ledge like 2 stories or 3 stories up, and then he got angry even after he'd thrown my shit out the window, and I'm like, it landed on this fucking ledge. Well, it landed on the ledge, sir, or whatever.
Yeah. Outside the C block.
I can't get it from downstairs. It's outside there. And then he's like, yeah, just go out and get it. And then I was like, oh, this is a bit weird. So when I jumped out of the window to go get the thing, there was a little... It went down lower than the window could see. So when I jumped down, I ducked real low, so it looked like I fell off the ridge just to fuck him up a bit, because he was sort of allowing the student to jump out the window to get his shit back outside, like in 3 stories up in the air.
Well, you know,
they were cool though. Like, there's a trade-off. There's like, you need some of that big dog and shit going on, but there was too much bitchiness in the authority at our school. It got overrun.
It's like a serious commentary. Fuck. But
our old deputy, he was fucking something else
cool.
at the time. Like, didn't appreciate that guy at the time at all, but looking back, you're like, oh, that guy was the fucking man, you know, like.
Well,
giving you these light punishments for all this cool shit and vaguely letting you get away with shit and just trying to intimidate you a bit, just sort of playing it how it is.
yeah, exactly. It was like a suburban Sydney public school trying to be like Eton and Oxford and shit.
Yeah, it was
on like a public school budget sort of thing.
It felt like we should have been on a train line.
Yeah,
like right on the train line, you know, like with the tracks like outside.
Yeah, the wrong side of the tracks. But it's funny you should talk about that feminized environment, because I read for whatever reason, the second time in my fucking life since like I was a little kid, I've heard of Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, who was in the news this week for claiming that like the problem with the ISIS situation is that we're a matriarchal society going up against a super patriarchal society, right? And that's like provocative, but it's needless to say quite flawed in many ways and shit. And then he goes on as the main thing, as his evidence for, you know, and I'm not painting it one way or another here, but the way he did this was pretty funny, that this was his number one like identifier of the feminized society. It's like women say that I speak too much at meetings and stuff and they get interrupted and everything, but like, you know, there comes a certain time when somebody's speaking and they've stopped saying anything of value. If I want to start speaking to like actually add something of value, then what's wrong with that? And yet I get called the bad guy, sort of thing. And it was just so crazy that was his number one thing, like whining about getting cut off by chicks in meetings. And I was like, look, well, if you're that committed to it, be someone like Donald Trump, then no one's ever going to cut you off or blaming for getting cut off, you know? I didn't like his attitude.
Yeah, he did write Dilbert. He said some profound shit the other week you brought up, though. That was cool, but
yeah,
seems like he's trolling again.
I don't know, it's pretty lame. I guess the ultimate lesson of that is boys need a good father.
I think they need your dangerous ideas movement of teachers that can satisfy a student's needs thoroughly. So
yeah, that could work. It might prove a little controversial though.
Like Master P. That's my favourite Master P noise. It's sort of like he's scared, but he's sort of fronting you, and he just doesn't know what the fuck's going on. It's pretty awesome. I think if you check out Ghetto Godzilla at the start of that, like here, lizard.
Yeah, that album's fucking cool. But
as soon as Master P comes in, I'm pretty sure he's like.
Whereas you got Mystical doing like James Brown shit and stuff. That's all I'm saying. But on this exact note, I was driving on the way here, just on one of the streets around, trendy district in the inner city, and there's all funky new kind of art galleries and boutiques and such, and there's a new one right there called MOP Projects. And I'm like, yeah. That's pretty bad. But it's always stuck in my mind because I heard MOP pretty early on in like my rap listening, and there was one of these lines about like, oh, you go snatch an old lady's purse, and that's like
in Annie Up, or
it might be in that,
or maybe in Cold as Ice,
and yeah,
I can't remember.
And even when you're trying to be like, oh, this rebellious teen and shit, I'm like, oh, that's pretty distasteful.
Hit him.
Like me being so middle class about it, sort of thing. That's despicable behaviour, you know? Snatching this old lady's fucking bags, but that's the way of the world.
Yeah, MOP were pretty badass. Andy Up was such a hype track back in the day.
Oh, it still gets me excited and everything. Yeah.
I could watch a knockout reel to that shit.
Is that a porn or boxing thing?
Yeah, fighting. But fuck yeah, put the porn on, chuck some Mandy Up. We can see what mind state you get in.
Watch it with MOP. Well, speaking of anting up and fucking snatching shit, I guess this is something I can end with. There's a guy was called Cecil Rhodes. He was big in the British Victorian imperialist system. He was a businessman. He founded De Beers Diamonds.
De Beers, the notorious De Beers.
And the country of Rhodesia, named after himself, which then became Zimbabwe. And in an early copy of his will, he might have changed it later, but needless to say, he was a very powerful, Victorian sort of, influence guy and stuff. And this was his original will that he wrote in his 20s about a certain scholarship. To and for the establishment, promotion, and development of a secret society, the true aim and object whereof shall be for the extension of British rule throughout the world. the perfection of a system of emigration from the United Kingdom, and of colonizations by British subjects of all lands where the means of livelihood are attainable by energy, labour and enterprise, and especially the occupation by British settlers of the entire continent of Africa, the Holy Land, the valley of the Euphrates, the islands of Cyprus and Candia, the whole of the South Pacific, the islands of the Pacific not heretofore possessed by Great Britain, the whole of the Malay archipelago, the seaboard of China and Japan, the ultimate recovery of the United States of America as an integral part of the British Empire, the inauguration of a system of colonial representation in the Imperial Parliament which may tend to weld together disjointed members of the Empire, and finally the foundation of so great a power as to render war impossible and promote the best interests of humanity. And he's founded a scholarship. 3 of them who've been there recently that you might know are Bill Clinton, Tony Abbott and Malcolm Turnbull, all went to Oxford on the scholarship he founded. So it's not really a conspiracy thing, but it just gives you the idea of the scope of what people sort of think of and stuff, you know? Especially during that time.
The overreaching ego of the, what do you call it, the dominant fascist state.
Well, exactly. I mean, in a way, when you think about it, it just sounds like that's what Hitler's plans would have sounded like.
Oh, totally. That's what everyone's fucking plans are. That's what we were talking about last time. It's like, if you're the death cult motherfucker, even if you're the only one that subscribed to your fucking little vague nonsense thing, like if it's ISIS or it's ISIS 72.5 and you're like the only cunt in it, it's like your personal death cult. Mm-hmm. It's still self-serving and loving and like all that shit for just you and, or like, you know, like fuck it all.
Fucking Care Bear videos to like. Oh, sorry.
Did that make up for it? Like, that's what, yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
That should have made up for the Care Bears thing.
Yeah.
I think I've said cunt enough times to make up for the Care Bears thing, but I thought I'd just do something like that, you know? Just offset the episode.
Yin and yang. Well, that's why you need religion, isn't it? We were talking about to like absolve yourself of this sort of this dirt, I suppose.
Well, spirituality, fuck religion. Religion's the business of spirituality, and spirituality is such a fuckery word to throw around because everyone wants to be like, you think about yoga and incense and some dumb chick, you know. But like,
religion is
the essence of it, though.
Yeah, religion is my business, and business is good, you know. Atheism sells, but who's buying? Like, you know,
keep those fucking holes that let the coins fall through in your little fucking, what are those plates called?
The collection plates and stuff. Yeah, so you can't put coins in there, but yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's going to be digital next, and when you swipe, it only takes 50s.
Yeah, exactly. 50 for Jesus and stuff. They'll be like, oh, it triggers me if I see the blue one. It looks like the fish that Jesus got and stuff. But, you know, I don't want to have a go at Christians, because fair enough. Good on them and stuff. But I'll give a special shout out to, I went to a Baha'i temple for the first time in my life recently. I don't think I mentioned it on here, but it was near my house, but I hadn't been for ages. And it was pretty cool. Like, this super enthusiastic guy came and sort of like told us a bit about the religion. But they're basically all chill. It was started by an Iranian guy who was like, hey, let's all chill between like Judaism and Islam and Christianity, and they spent the rest of their life like trying to kill his son and all this sort of shit. And yeah, but it's like nice architecture, it's all pretty chill, and they've never hurt anyone, so good on you if you're Baha'i.
Fuck it, anyone that tries to do good shit, and they're going to pass down an even better version to their kids and shit. Yep,
there's going to be a place for you in my Imperial Australian Empire.
Let them live, yeah.
Let the children play. Let the children play. If that's a one thing.
But jokes aside, you do have to be careful of that. Like, you know, like we were saying, you end up with fucking liberal fascists, like these fucked up social justice warriors on the internet and shit. Yeah. You think you're doing some good shit, and then you start talking about taking people's welfare away because they're not conforming to the liberal shit that you think people should do. You know, it's just, it starts getting nonsensical. It's like, no, I'm super for everyone's rights, but if you don't do it the way that I say, then you shouldn't have any rights. Like, you just get that feeling now that it's so over censored and over everything that it's like they're starting to jack you like a fascist, and they're saying that they're like this liberal green motherfucker.
A good one is if you hear, we need to have a conversation about, like in the headline, it actually means
I'm going to tell you what the fuck.
Yeah. But
that's womansplaining. Sorry, girls. I'm on fire tonight.
I was trying so hard to keep it on the rickety road on the side of the mountain and shit, and you just drove it right off.
Fuck yeah, right? It's been a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks to all our listeners fucking jacking up our views.
Okay,
We got 10 fucking views in one day, bro. That's pretty fucking epic.
To be fair, Trump's attitude is sort of the same thing, you know, and that's the masculine sort of opposite of it. His is sort of sit down and shut up.
Yeah, Trump is a bit of a fucking idiot.
But you'd rather go on a fishing trip with him than Hillary too, wouldn't you, you know?
You get some better stories.
Yeah, some better fish.
Well, that's face value as well. Hillary's probably got some shady shit she could tell you, but she'd probably keep it to herself, though.
No, there's so much...
Trump would just brag to you about fucking hookers in Brazil and, you know, crazy shit.
Golf and shit. Playing golf with the Queen and shit, you know? She was weak.
Who, the Queen or the hooker? She wasn't man enough for the Donald.
Yeah, people are discussing whether he's the approach of some type of fascism, which is sort of... I take your point about the social justice, sort of authoritarian sort of stuff.
He could be the Antichrist.
Yeah. Fuck.
That's why he couldn't get the hair right. He's like, I don't know what hair is like. I know horns. We'll do red. Just chuck something on there.
Yeah. He's a bit... I read something about his little shows. They sound like shitty commercialized fascist rallies sort of thing. Like, to be honest, imagine like an American salesman doing a little Hitler thing and stuff. It's so tacky and everything. Even when he says shit I agree with, kind of, you know, calling out people on the other side who've gone too far. All he does is call people weak, and I'm like, that's not how you can really run a presidency, I don't think.
And didn't he pull some big dog business moves in the 80s that probably hurt a bunch of people that didn't really deserve it?
I'm sure he has.
I'm just going on the vague sense I have of this guy's life, but maybe I'm mangling it, and he's a super great dude. But
no, he probably
I heard he's fucked some people.
He probably just goes around at night, lower Manhattan, like taking knives out of his briefcase and stabbing bums and shit. Like, I don't have anything in common with you. You're weak and shit, you know. And then just going back to work like it's nothing. So I don't know. He's unsettling in the political arena, but you know that's the vibrancy of democracy, I suppose. And if there's one thing that Conez and Doe shows about, it's democracy. It's about letting your voice be heard, if your voice belongs to me or Doe. And yeah, it was another informative hour, I think.
As Rodrigo Alfaro would say, the charade of democracy is profiting from our loss. I used to listen to a lot of fucked up skate punk.
Don't worry, I did too.
But the next line is, the charade of democracy no longer represents us, so that's pretty cool.
So I guess there's nowhere to go from there but hell, cyber, goggle prisons and shit like that, you know?
Well, his band is called Satanic Surfers, or was, or is after they reformed. And that goes with the VR, cyber, hell, lethal injection, Conez and Doe, politics, fucking spatial awareness. Mix all that shit together with some fucking pop-up Google ads, inject it into the brain of the AI machine, awaken Skynet, reset the world.
How long are we going to have before Skynet comes back?
I don't know, man, but I'm just trying to make the most of it. So watch The Spirit Molecule. It's about DMT. Watch that shit before you try it.
Build your shelter.
Sign some petitions. Legalize weed in Australia. This shit's getting fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, if anybody wants to give us a bunch more people listening to the show, please do so. And listen to it some more. Stalin once said, "One death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic." And people often use that as like the horrific example of like the toll taken by totalitarian governments. But if you flip it around, it's quite a positive message. It means that every life's important. Every life is a tragedy playing out in full. And I like that. I think that's a nice bit of positivity from Stalin, which we don't often see.
Yeah, it is kind of backhanded. He says it's such a cold-sounding statistic, but you can take it that way that you're saying as well. It's pretty cool.
Who was it but Stalin, who was a master of the backhanded compliment, you know, politically? I mean...
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he was a monster, though, I guess. So that's the Conez and Doe show. What do we got to finish with?
I think this week I got a song here that I think I made maybe like 5-7 years ago, some shit, around the time just before we started getting monkey dust for the first time. Yeah, you can hear that. You can hear why. That's around the time we started getting monkey dust. Alright, yeah.
That's it.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's a techno one.